All right, I wanted to get back to something Derek Gould said when we were talking about this lefty reliever, and he's kind of a fringe major leaguer, although, again, Miklasz or whatever his name is, he did once Seattle I don't know his name.
I'm sorry.
Miklasz.
Yes.
Miklasz. Oh, he's missed home plate again. No, he actually controls pretty good. And anyway, his numbers were really bad in Seattle, but when he came to the Royals last year in a trade, and again, he's back and forth, minors, majors, minors, majors. He did strike out a lot of people, so maybe something has been unlocked. So, listen, I give the guy the fair chance. But the larger point here is something that Derek Gould pointed out, and it fits with something I wrote today and I was going to talk about today as well. But Derek put it really well. He said, they gave the Royals, cash for this, and obviously it ain't a lot of cash. So instead of giving the cash to sign Andrew Chafin or Matt Moore, proven left-handed guys, especially Chafin, I'll give you some stuff on him. He's amazing. Instead of allocating cash to one of them, they gave just a little bit of cash. I don't know, $10, $20 maybe, to get this guy from Kansas City. They need a left-handed reliever, which is why they got him. But instead of addressing it in an aggressive way to get one of the very best out there, it's like almost a miracle they're still out there. But they were probably asking for too much money, and the price is probably going to be coming down between now and the start of spring training or shortly thereafter. But I'm not going to get into the Matt Moore thing. After taking a look at Andrew Chafin, he is by far the best guy out there. You know why? Because he has got a slider that is a killer, and it's not just against left-handed hitters. It's against right-handed hitters as well. Now, let me explain. The game has changed because of this stupid 3-batter minimum rule, right?
Yeah.
So the idea of specialists, every now and then you can sneak one through, to get maybe I don't know the rules, and I'm not going to get into all that because I forget them, and it's usually they're overly complicated. But the idea is you bring in a lefty up, against Bryce Harper, and then that's it. Then you take him out, that kind of thing. You can't do that anymore. Your left-handers, it's really, really important for your left-handers to be effective against right-handed batters. Those guys are not easy to find. And you got to get out of the old thinking. Well, he can come in and get me one out. No, it's not like that. Your left-handed relievers are going to face right-handed batters more than ever. And, of course, you're going to save them for a situation, if you can, where 2 of the first 3 batters they face, let's say, are lefty batters. But if they stay in the game, or it depends on, pinch hitting and all this, they're going to pitch to a lot of right-handers. So the last 2 seasons, let me just give you this. He throws a sinker and a slider. I'm talking about Andrew Chafin. He was with the Cubs in 21. They traded him at the deadline to Oakland. In other words, they didn't dump him or anything. They traded him to get some prospects, and then he signed a free agent deal with Detroit for 2022. Here's what he's done the last 2 seasons when he's thrown the slider. These are 2 seasons combined. Left-handed batters have an .062 average, 154 slugging percentage, and in the 65 at-bats that ended with him throwing a slider to a left-handed batter, he has struck him out 54% of the time. That's just with the slider. He's got other stuff that works too. Now, this left-handed reliever, Andrew Chafin, against right-handed batters the last 2 years, they're supposed to crush him, right? Supposed to crush those lefties. Mm-hmm. 105 average, 186 slug, 62% strikeout rate on at-bats that end with the slider. That's the right-handed batters who should have a distinct advantage. So the last 2 seasons, if you look at all of his pitches, he's held right-handed hitters to a 204 average, a 257 on-base percentage, and a slugging percentage around 310. Also with a hardly walks any of them, and he's got a 27% strikeout rate, which is good. But why pay cash to him when you can call the Royals up and say, hey, we want that Manischewitz.
Give us Anthony. We want him.
We want Manischewitz.
I tell you, it's amazing how cheap they're trying to go. By the way, we had a texter to text it in on this subject. Said, "Hey, I think Gersh went shopping in the alley of KC."
Yeah, I mean, probably so, right?
Yes.
Probably got some barbecue, and so let me go. See I heard there's good dumpsters around here. Let me take a look. So this has become now. Look, I know what's going on here. If you look at the top 2 contracts that were dished out to free agent relievers this year, and this one's really stupid. For some reasons that only they can comprehend, the Giants gave Taylor Rogers a 3-year deal that averages $11 million a season. Taylor Rogers, compared to Andrew Chafin, it's like having a guy in the old Frontier League, compared to like Sparky Lyle or something,
Yep.
Why in the world would the Giants give him 3 years and $33 million? And then the Phillies were stupid. They gave Matt Strahm 2 years at an average of $7.5 million. So if you're Chafin, who's really the best left-handed reliever in this market by far, because he kills right-handed batters. Of course, he dominates left-handed batters. He's supposed to. But what makes him better than anyone else who does this is he is as tough, if not tougher, on right-handed hitters as he is left-handed hitters. So he sees this, and he's like, well, if they're going to give that bum $11 million a year in San Francisco, I'm not rushing into anything. I expect to be paid accordingly. Well, it's almost like a collusion thing. All these other general managers, it's like, well, no, we're not. He's still sitting out there because he probably had. I don't think his demands were excessive. His demands are whatever they think they should be. But in terms of how that was received by front offices, they're like, no, we're not going to pay that much. But he might have to lower his price. But I wanted to explain just why he would be a great fit for the Cardinals, who definitely need left-handed relief because they don't have a sure thing. And before you say Zach Thompson, let's go over it again. Pitched 29 innings in relief last year. They had to space him out. Then they had to shut him down because his arm got tired. He's got good stuff. He did well, but you really can't rely on him at this point because the endurance is a question. Genesis Cabrera went off the rails with his pitching and also with his temperament. Anybody that's counting on him with certainty is really being foolish. Hopefully he'll prove me wrong. And they got Packy Naughton, and John Mozeliak was on KMOX the other day. And he was talking about Packy Naughton the way back in the day you would hear general managers talking about Randy Johnson. I mean, it's unbelievable. He's talking about how excited he was. Packy's going to get a chance. Hey, we don't rule him out as a starter. We're really excited what he can do. I'm like, well, wait, what happened? What did I miss? Who'd they trade for? Who did they trade for? Did they go get one of the best left-handers in baseball or something? No, it's Packy Naughton. So they don't have any sure thing lefty in the bullpen for 2023. And obviously Andrew Chafin would fit perfectly. But no. And again, I'm gonna shut up after this. I'm just going to repeat this, what I said earlier. And add this. It was a typical move. Rather than pay up to sign an elite lefty reliever, you jump the market right now. Instead of waiting till the very end, and then you're going to get beat out by someone else. If you quote overpay, you get your guy now, and you get a true elite left-handed reliever. But instead of ponying up for that, it's like, hey, just go get some guy that's marginal in Kansas City. We're set. Him and Packy, we can't be beat. And so let me review. This is where the Cardinals are going. Many of you know it, and I'm just going to remind you and put the number on it. In 2019, the Cardinals ranked 7th among the 30 teams in the 26-man payroll. And they were also 7th in the 40-man payroll. So that's 2019, 7th, whatever way you want to look at it. I skipped past the pandemic season. In 2021, they were 10th in the 26-man payroll and 9th in the 40-man. So they go from 7th to 9th or 10th. In 2022, they were 13th in the 26-man payroll, and they ranked 12th in the 40-man. So you're at 7th, and then, a couple of full seasons later, you're now 12th and 13th. And right now, they sit number 16 in the 26-man and the 40-man. So you've gone from 7th to 16th in a few short years. And really, it's only 3 full years. You've gone from 7th to 16th. So when we try to understand these people by saying, well, why wouldn't you pay a little more for Andrew Chafin? You got the money. You got the payroll space. Y'all said you were going to increase the payroll. You led us to believe it was going to be significant, and you didn't do it. You got the money. You have a need. You claim you're committed to winning. Why don't you go get Andrew Chafin? It's amazing that he's still out there, and there's nothing wrong with him. There's no physical issues or anything like that. Well, because you can see where this is going. I don't know what's with the pandemic and all the losses that major league teams claim they suffered through. I don't know if it has to do with the collapse of the company that owns all the regional sports network, the Bally properties, which could, I've been reading a lot on this, it absolutely could affect revenue flow for major league teams. And Bill DeWitt's really concerned about that. He's talked about it a lot. So they're scaling back. And I don't care that they're technically speaking, their payroll for this year is already a little higher than it was last year. I don't really care about that, because the point is, what are the people that you have to beat, including the postseason? What are they doing with their payroll? They haven't slowed down. They haven't scaled back. They haven't said, well, we're not going to go higher than this. That's it. Wilson Contreras. That's it. They're doing it right in front of our eyes, right? They're scaling back their payroll. They would get you on a technicality if somebody like me said, well, they're reducing their payroll. Technically, they're not, but that really does not matter, and it's not the pertinent point. With payrolls rising among the most competitive teams, maybe the Dodgers are an exception this year because they just want to get under that luxury tax thing just to reset it. And they really have a lot of talent on the way. But the primary competitors all over baseball are raising their payroll, and they're going after talent that can strengthen their weaknesses to give themselves a better shot in the postseason. The Cardinals are not doing that. And I think this little move today with the reliever from the lefty reliever from Kansas City, this little move today, settling for that instead of pursuing a guy who, if he's not the best lefty reliever in the game, he would be in the top 5. And he hammers right-handed batters. So that's what's happening with baseball in St. Louis. How about that Albert Pujols windfall? They paid him $2.5 million last year. How many tickets did they sell? How many people went and drank beer and ate at Ballpark Village? How much merch did they sell? And pretty much the payroll's the same.
It's sad. There's no doubt. We have a texter, by the way, just chimed in.
Sure.
Bernie, Dusty Blake, feel bad for him. They just told him make chicken salad out of this.
That's right. Well, he can get some advice from the KC people. They at least found out a way to get him to strike out people. So anyway, this is just such a strange time. And, I also wonder about some other things. Everyone laughed at Mike Shannon when he said, I hear they're selling the team. And I don't think they're selling the team. And Bill DeWitt III in particular is adamant about that. And believe it or not, I do believe him. But I can understand why scaling your payroll back, in part because, and I don't care what they say, I don't believe this part, Oh, no. We're not worried about payroll as it relates to the crack up of the Bally Sports networks and what that means for us financially. Oh, no. See, all due respect, I don't believe that. But this is also the kind of thing that leads people to think, well, geez, maybe Shannon was right, because why would they aggressively enlarge the payroll if they're trying to sell the team? I don't believe that. But I also would be less than honest if I said, or I didn't say, well, I understand why some people could think there's a connection there, right?
Oh, yeah. I don't look. I think the Bally stuff is real. They're just never going to tell you that it's real.
Oh, it's totally real.
You know, I mean, they are fiscally responsible, and their metrics and their numbers, and they never veer off of them. And I think they definitely realize that that's an issue. They are good about looking ahead. I will give them credit for that.
No, they are,
and
I respect that too.
Yeah,
I do.
So
they're just taking it a little too far.
Oh, yeah.
And you know what? And it also just feeds the theory and the perception that they're content to get in, win their 90, 91 games, maybe 89 this year, and get a wild card spot and, hope to get lucky. I used to push back on that. I don't anymore. You all are very entitled to take shots at me for that, because I just you get in the playoffs because you got to get into the playoffs. And I do believe that. It's not meaningless. But no, they're doing everything that just brings to mind this theory that they calibrate. That's my word. They're always calibrating. Well, hey, we just got. How do we get to 91 wins?
Sure.
Not how do we match up against the Mets in the postseason if it comes to that, or the Phillies, or whoever else. It's very, very interesting. So they're sort of giving their critics so much to work with the payroll stagnation, the calibration to just win a wild card, signing Wilson Contreras after leading everyone to believe it was going to be a pretty big winner for the Cardinals as far as spending money. Wilson Contreras, and that's it. They're playing right into their critics' hands. And I'm not someone who hates them or seeks to criticize them. I try to be really, really fair. And I 100% appreciate the success that this ownership and management has had for a very, very long time. I don't take that for granted. But they are, I don't know how to categorize them. I mean, they used to be way ahead of so many other good teams, well-funded teams in terms of, in a lot of ways. And they've sort of fallen behind. Now they're falling behind in payroll, which, contrary to public opinion, their payroll was totally fine for a long time. And people ever called them cheap when you have the 7th highest payroll in baseball. Oh, should we want top 5? Okay, I'll go along with that. But if you're 7th out of 30, you're not being cheap. You're spending money. You have a generous payroll. But they are so resistant to changing that. And it's not just because it's practical, because they've had higher payrolls in recent years where they've had more success. And they hardly were throwing money away or around. But they're scaling back. And you just have to believe there are multiple factors that explain why this is happening. I don't know. I'm just doing my best to try to figure it out.
I'm there with you. Usually when the seats are empty is when they start to get concerned. But we'll see. Because the seats weren't empty last year because of the Pujols run. So they got an extra year out of that.
And I know they were, just ecstatic that Wainwright's coming back for his hero tour.
Yeah.
He only pitches every 5th day,
Well, opening day is Yachty Albert Pujols pitching bobbleheads, so there you go. We still can't get away from it.
This is not a shot at Ben Hockman, not at all. His daily video today, it's just the question that he posed to us, actually. and I'm going to take a stab at it. Not a shot at Ben, though, not at all. But he asked in his daily video at STL Today the question, can Cardinals pitcher Dakota Hudson crack the starting rotation? My answer is, I don't know, but if he does, that's not a good thing for the Cardinals because it means the guys that they're building around, the top 5 to go into the season with, that means one of them will be missing. And they will be missing 99%. If they're missing, it'll be because of an injury. So can he crack the starting rotation later on in the season? I guess it's possible. Sure it is. It's possible. I mean, you need more than 5 starters. There will be minor injuries that don't, destroy everything. There's little minor, we've got to skip this start. There will be, the games, those really, really busy parts of the schedule where all managers are now trying to limit innings, things like that. I'm not saying, he'll never start or that he wouldn't make, 10, 11 starts or whatever along the way, but actually crack the starting rotation. That would not be a positive development for the Cardinals. No disrespect to him. It just means that something else with that rotation already has gone wrong, even before they start to get into the season.
Oh boy, yeah. The question is, I get it. We want to see him improve and make strides, and it'd be great to not walk people anymore. But to your point, that means Waino, Miklasz, Montgomery, Flaherty, or Matz are not there. And any of those guys that are not there, you automatically are going, oh boy, there's issues because if they're not there, as you pointed out, they're hurt.
Right.
And knowing what we know with the age with Waino, look, when Miklasz is healthy, he's good, but he has had some issues in his time here.
And he's no young guy anymore.
No. And obviously, Flaherty is the huge question. We all know the injuries, but we also know if he's not good, there's no real number one guy that could be a possible shutdown guy. And, Matz and Montgomery, they seem to be okay. But if they're not there, you're without a lefty now. So
who knows?
Boy.
It's just unfortunate that there's not enough there to be excited about in terms of their starting rotation. I wanted to mention something, and this is a related note. I get the Joe Sheehan newsletter because, of course, I do. Very good friend. I've been getting his newsletter forever. I love Joe. He caught my eye with something, and now I got to find it, where he was talking about Michael Wacha. And he was talking about some people that are still out there on the free agent market. And Joe got into a brief discussion in his newsletter about, well, I'll just read this because it also concerns Jack Flaherty, and it'll all come together here in a minute. He wrote, Michael Wacha may end up as one of the last pitchers whose workload at a young age negatively impacted his career. Drafted out of Texas A&M at age 20, he made his MLB debut less than a year later at 21. He became a key part of a Cardinals staff that won the National League pennant. Counting the postseason that year, Wacha threw 180 innings at age 21. Then he had his 2014 season shortened to 109 innings by a stress fracture in his throwing shoulder. In 2015, at age 23, he threw 185 innings and had nothing left in September, where he had an ERA that month of 7.88. Or October, for that matter. He had one bad start in October as well. So Joe is making, obviously, the correlation of piling innings on young starting pitchers. And he went with 180 innings because based on his research, that seems to be the danger zone for not all young pitchers. This does not apply to every young pitchers, but a lot of them have paid a price seemingly for that. So what Joe did, and by the way, just to be obnoxious and give you the usual reminder, it's not 1968. I wouldn't mind seeing starters go do the olden days thing and throw 230, 240 innings. So don't holler at me or Sheehan because we're talking about 180 innings. That's what baseball is today. I'm not responsible for that, but that's the way it is. And all the huffing and puffing over the olden days ain't going to bring it back to where it was as far as innings load, okay? Thank you. Thanks for listening to me. So Joe said, let's just stick to the regular season, where he said Wacha, in the 7 seasons since his rookie season, or his first 7, or the next 7, or whatever it is, I'm sure, because it's a little confusing. But his point is, since that time when Wacha broke onto the scene and threw over 180 innings as a really young guy with no major league experience, he says that Joe says there's 7 pitchers 23 years or under that have thrown 181 innings in a season over that time, right? 7 pitchers only, 23 years or younger, have thrown 181 seasons in a time. So here are the 7. Sandy Alcantara, okay, that worked out great. He threw 197 in 2019, and there have been no effects. I'm glad the Cardinals traded that guy away. No, I'm just kidding. Jack Flaherty is one. German Marquez is one. Luis Severino is one. And then you go Aaron Sanchez, Noah Syndergaard, Jose Fernandez. And for obvious reasons, Jose Fernandez should not be included in this. But his point is that, first of all, there's only been 7. So let's look at the 6 that are still pitching. Jack Flaherty's thrown 150 innings in the last 3 seasons. We all know about him. Marquez has stayed healthy, but he's pitching at a lower level. His numbers have gone really south since the pandemic season. Luis Severino had that big innings load in 2017, and he came back the next year, and he was fine. In fact, he was an all-star. But now he has thrown 18 innings in the last 3 years, total, 18 innings. Aaron Sanchez, who had that 192-inning season at age 23 in 2016, he has been a below the replacement level pitcher, and he's got a 5.29 in 6 seasons since that season that we noted. Noah Syndergaard made 7 starts at age 24 and has never been Thor, the vintage Thor, since then. He was respectable last year, but not close to what he was. Only Sandy Alcantara on that entire list has defied the be careful, you numbskulls, you don't pitch these 20, 21-year-old pitchers, 22-year-old pitchers, even 23-year-old pitchers, depending on their experience. You can't just give them a big load of innings at a young age. They break. That's the takeaway. And 5 of the 6 guys on this list have broken after having high innings loads at a really, really young age. There's always something you can learn from this game and learn from people like Joe Sheehan when they take the time to do the work to research this stuff, because I find it interesting. Think about what might have been if the Cardinals were ahead of this a little bit and they had just said, no, look, media are going to squawk. Everyone's going to squawk. We get it. But we got to ease off on some of the innings for these really young guys. Now maybe they wouldn't have won the pennant. They probably wouldn't have in 2013. So therefore you say, well, was it worth it in the end? You can make a case it was. You got to the World Series. You haven't been back since. With Jack Flaherty, I think there's a lot of things you can second guess now. I wasn't talking about his inning loads in 2019 when he was much younger. I didn't make an issue of it. So maybe I do not have the standing to complain about it. I'm not. I'm just pointing out, man, this trend is pretty disturbing. At least it only applied to 6 pitchers since Wacha time, and it could be a lot more than that. It does show you that most organizations have gotten pretty smart about this, even though old school media, old school fans are hollering about whatever happened to Bob Gibson, that kind of thing. The smart organizations have limited innings for their young starters. The counter argument to that, and many smart baseball people will say it, which is, well, how are they ever going to build up the ability to pitch innings if you baby them? It's not as simple as that, but I get the point. I get the overall, the general message of that.
It is an interesting argument or discussion. I don't even know if it's an argument. It's more of a discussion because there's the numbers there that Joe just did, the research are right there in front of you. The other side of that, and you hinted on it, and there's so much truth in this. Let's go back to when Flaherty was just mowing them down and had that historic second half. How do you just say we shut that down? When,
right?
And this is kind of a little Russa type statement. When you're here at the big leagues, you're here to win games.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, he's helping us win games, and he is successful. He was our best pitcher. You could argue he was the best pitcher in the game at that point. How do you go, yeah, but we're going to shut this down? You
don't have to do the full Steven Strasburg thing. Clever teams have been able to just, you skip a start here, you skip a start there. You be cognizant of you got a game under control, right?
Right.
It's okay to take him out after 5. He doesn't have to go 8.
Agreed on that. Yes.
Schilt did an incredibly stupid thing in 2019 when the Cardinals in the decisive game in Atlanta in the LDS, they scored 13 runs. I think it really was 13 runs in the first inning. At that point, Schilt should have went to Jack Flaherty and said, I know you want to be part of this, so I'm going to give you the first inning, and then I'm taking you out. We got to make sure you're loaded up and fresh for what's to come. We need you at your best. But no, he let him pitch whatever it was, 6 innings or something. And I sat there and said, I'm really happy the Cardinals are going to go to the NLCS. I think this is cool. But I'm also shaking my head and say, what is it about certain managers where you're just like, can't they see or understand the bigger picture? And the Cardinals have had too much of that through the years. Oh man, I want my guy to get the win. Yeah, but he's thrown, 115 pitches in 4 innings, and his velocity. Oh, I got to get my guy the win. Mm-hmm. The Cardinals, for all of their intelligence in a lot of areas, have been really dumb about certain things. It's blind spot stuff, And that's one of them.
You got to be smarter about it. Again, the numbers, I love Joe's numbers there. That's just incredible. And it's pretty obvious when you look at that. You go, hey, think it through a little smarter. And skipping a start is not a bad thing. Now, if it was suggested to the guys on this starting staff right now, especially the guy who's supposed to be the leader of the staff, he would not go for that. He would throw a fit. And I'm talking about Wainwright.
Oh, he's never wanted to come out of a game, and that's that hero ball stuff. And I understand that he's got pride, but it'll be interesting to see how Marmol handles it this year. Listen, I alluded to it with Derek. I'm not going to be a phony here. I've got really mixed feelings about Wainwright in the WBC. Number one, he has the right to choose to go do that if he was invited, and obviously he was, number one. Number two, to Derek Gould's point, Major League Baseball as an entity encourages and basically orders all of their teams to make their players available. But a part of me also looks at Wainwright and looked at his ERA last year over his final 7 starts, and it all came to a head. 7 or 8 starts, it all came to a head in September. And no, I do not believe the story about, he spotted a flaw in his delivery. Adam Wainwright can spot a flaw in his delivery almost instantaneously. It does not take him a month to figure it out. So you got a guy that's going to be 42 years old late in the season, and he's going to be going to the WBC. I don't know how much he's going to pitch, but he's going to be going all in, all out. He's going to be. It's going to be an intense competition that everyone takes seriously. And It's a simple question. Is that going to be good for him in terms of his real job, which is pitching for the Cardinals in 2023? Is it going to affect him as the season goes on? Late in the season, will he have enough bullets to be effective? So yeah, I could be gutless and I could be a phony and say, oh no, it's 100% wonderful. I can't bring myself to get to that point, although I do respect his choice because he has the right to make it.
Oh, 100%. It is his choice, but there's no way anyone could convince me that it's good for him.
No.
If you're talking about your Cardinal baseball team, it's not good. Any person at that age, any pitcher at that age, the wear and tear wears on you, and you're going to be affected as the season goes on. And we already know he's. I don't want to use the word fragile, but he's got those issues. The age has crept up on him, and to think that doesn't affect anything moving forward it's foolish.
His last 11 starts last season, and the worst were the ones in September, and he did have a couple good starts in this 11-start stretch that closed the regular season. 61 innings and an ERA of 4.99.
That's terrible.
Now, if you suggested to Adam Wainwright that this is age-related and too many innings, where Marmol had chances during the season to maybe get him out of a start earlier and still, in a way that the Cardinals are still in great shape to win the game, Wainwright would be insulted to the core and would probably refuse to ever talk to you again. And that's fine. He can do that as well. But he does not concede certain things. And I think I read something that a fan wrote, and I thought it was actually right on. He said, I don't mean this in a bad way, but I'm just trying to be honest. Oli Marmol's toughest job this season will be Adam Wainwright. The toughest part of his job.
Yeah, I'd see that. That would be accurate.
And so I just hope that all these other guys don't get hurt. I hope Bro doesn't run into a wall, or whatever. Man,
just pull up lane.
11, 12 guys, that's a lot of your team. Cardinals can't afford to have a lot of this go wrong,
Right.
So am I being a little paranoid? Yeah, you can make fun of me, guys and women. You can. Absolutely. I got the worry beads out about this, and I should probably relax a little. If you're saying that right now or something similar, I would say you're probably right. I would say it's reasonable advice. But, man, I just know how the Cardinals roll, and I know how these weird things happen. And, all due respect to Lars Nootbaar playing for Japan, I want to make sure he's 100% when he's playing for the Cardinals. That's all, Because Lars will go running into walls and sliding and running into the dugout and diving and,
Oh, yeah, they're good.
Oh, no, Lars ain't going to hold back. So, anyway.